This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi. Sefer Ezra. Learning Par Gimel, Pasuk Vav. We're talking about in the times of toward the end of the 70 years of Bavel. Not quite when the 70 years were over, and you have the first waves of returnees to Eretz Yisrael. And we learned how the people from Shevet Yehuda returned, from Binyamin, from other places. And what happened? What happened was they began to donate toward the Beis HaMikdash, and it comes the 7th month, which of course is the month of Tishrei, and they want to bring the Karbanos of Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, and in fact that's what they do. And we learned last week, we'll just revisit Pasuk Vav, Miyayim Echad LaChodesh HaShvi, from the first day of the 7th month, Heichelu, they began Lahalois Oilos Hashem, to bring up carbon oilos to Hashem, Veheichal Hashem lo yusad, although the Heichal had not been founded yet, nevertheless they were able to make a Mizbeach without the Heichal. And this of course brings up the very interesting subject of whether you're allowed to bring Karbanos when there is no Beis HaMikdash. But the Rambam in fact learns that the Makom HaMikdash has eternal Kedusha, and even regardless of whether you have an actual structure or not, nevertheless you're allowed to bring Karbanos on the Mizbeach. And how did Klal Yisrael know this at the time? Well, the Gemara in Zvachim says on Daf Samach Beis that there were 3 Nevi'im, Chagai, Zechariah, Malachi. Each one testified about a certain item, and one of them testified that you could bring Karbanos on the Mizbeach even in the absence of the Beis HaMikdash. Okay, that's what we're up to.
So if somebody wanted to build a Mizbeach today, they could bring Karbanos there.
So technically speaking, perhaps you could bring Karbanos today. But now that gets you have to know the precise location of where the Mizbeach should be. You can't be telling it, right? There are a lot of technical factors. Fine. By the way, that's the Rambam's opinion. The Ravid disagrees. The Ravid says no. Okay. But in any event, Vayidnu, Pasuk Zayin, Vayidnu Chesef, they gave money, Lachoitzvim, to the people who were choitzev, the stones from the quarry, the quarriers, Filecharoshim, and the carpenters. They paid them silver, but they also paid them in other ways.
Watering.
Umachal, food. Food is always a good way to pay. Mishteh, drink. Vashemen, and oil. Latzidonim. The Tzidonim, the Sidonians. Who are the Sidonians? These are people from the kingdom of Tsur.
Not Jewish, right?
No, not Jewish. Velat Soirim, and the people from Tsur. Lahavi Atse Arazim, to bring cedar wood, Min Halavanoin, from the Lebanon, El Yam Yafa, through the Sea of Yafa, Kerishan Koresh Melech Paras Aleim, as Koresh had so given them permission. We know Koresh authorized them to transport these Atzei Levan. First of all, Koresh gave them permission to build the Beis HaMikdash in general. If you take a look at Rashi, Kirishyon Kasher Hayu Rishus HaMelech Aleim Livnais Habayis. Rashi learns this pasuk means, as Koresh gave them permission to build the Beis HaMikdash, Kirishyon, what does the word Rishyon mean? It says Rashi Lashon Rishus. It's a language of permission. Okay. Now the Malbim learns that this is not a general sense of Koresh giving them permission to build the Beis HaMikdash, but rather this is specifically referring to the permission that Koresh granted to transport the wood from the Lebanon. The Malbim explains, Ki Atzei HaLevanon Hayu Shayachim LaMelech. This is not just Stam a forest. The Lebanon forest was the royal forestry.
Right. High quality timber.
Right. If you remember, when the Malach taught you in utero Sefer Nehemiah, or maybe you learned it at a different time, but in Nehemiah it says you can't take wood without permission from the king. So they sent to bring wood, not to buy it. Why didn't they pay for it? Because Koresh had already given them permission. Okay. So Pasuk Ches.
He not only gave permission to cut it, but he donated the wood, essentially.
Right.
Why did we need the Tzironim and the Tzurim to bring it? We weren't capable of doing it ourselves? Because they weren't, I don't know, were they from Lebanon, these people? What was so special about the requirements?
So if you look in Sefer Malachim, the Sidonium were the master craftsmen of this type of wood. They were expert in this type of wood.
And the Tzurim?
Also.
Is this a nation or a name of a group of people?
Well, I think that Sidonium are those who live in Sur, which are
Where's Sur?
Glatstein. Sur is Tyre, it's to the north of
Tyre is Lebanon.
Yeah, the kingdom of Tyre. Okay. Okay, let's continue. Uvashana Hashenis, and in year 2, Levayim al Beis Halekim Yerushalayim. When they came to the house of Hashem in Yerushalayim, B'chodesh Hasheni, Heichelu Zerubbabel ben Shealtiel. Zerubbabel ben Shealtiel began. Remember, we said Zerubbabel is Nehemiah. V'Yeshua ben Yotzadok, Ushar Achem, and the rest of their brothers, HaKohanim, V'Halavim, B'chol Haboim Mehashvi Yerushalayim, and all who had come from the captivity to Yerushalayim. Vayamidu, and they established as Halavim, Mi ben Esrim Shan V'Mala, from 20 and up. Lenatseach al Melechas Beis Hashem. Lenatseach, over the work of the house of Hashem. Now, very interesting. Why from 20 and up? Does anybody know? When do Levium begin their avodah?
30.
So the Torah says Levium.
They're apprentices from 20, right?
The Levium begin their avodah at 30, but they begin training at 25. Yes, we have a Chumash here with Rashi. So Rashi in I believe Bahaloischa. Thank you. Rashi in Bahaloischa in Parakles Pasuk Chav Daled. Pasuk says Zois Asher Lalavim Mi ben Chamesh V'Yesrim Shana V'Mala Yavoy L'Tzvaytzava Ba'avodas Omayid. I asked Rashi, but earlier on it says V'Makamacha Omer Mi ben Shloishim Shana.
In Nassau it says Ben
Shloishim Shana. Ha Ketzad. What does Rashi say? Mi ben Esrim V'Chamesh Ba Lomoid Hilchos Avoda V'Loimed Chamesh Shanim. So from age 25, you would begin to learn the halachas of the avodah, and he would learn for 5 years. Uven shloishim oived, and at 30, you begin to work. That's how Rashi reconciles the contradiction. And earlier on in Bamidbar, it says from the age of 30, and here in Bahaloisel it says 25. What's the answer? You start learning at 25, you start practicing at 30. From here, the Gemara in Chulin Chavdala derives that if your learning ain't going good after 5 years,
you don't get certified.
pick a different trade. The Gemara says like this: Mikan latalmid, any student in Torah, shalayra simin yafa b'mishnasai. If it's not going well, b'chamei shanim sheshuvein araya, it's not going to go well. In other words, we have a 5-year inspection period. We have a 5-year period where we see, is this guy going to is he going to get it or is he not going to get it? If it doesn't go in 5 years, it ain't happening. That's what Chazal say.
So much to learn.
What?
So much to learn about the avodah.
Yeah, apparently there's a lot to learn. How to?
If you're going to become an electrician, you have to be an apprentice of
You have to
7
be
years.
very careful.
You have to know. Okay, now, so Rabbi, the question is here: what age does it say?
20.
20. It doesn't say 25 like it says in Nasa, and it doesn't say 30. So how do we understand this?
But here it doesn't mean that they're doing the avodah. It says they're supervising the construction.
Well, where does we say anything about supervising?
Didn't you say l'natzayach?
I didn't translate the word l'natzayach yet.
Oh, I thought you used the term supervising, no?
Not yet.
Go back and check the tape.
Okay. The Ramban in Bahaloischa explains like this: that when do Levium start training at 25 and start practicing at 30? That's when the job of the Levi is to carry the Aron and the other articles of the Beis Hamikdash. But once the Aron arrives in Yerushalayim, and the only thing Levium need to do is guard and maintain the Beis Hamikdash and to sing, then the Levim start at age 20. Very interesting.
Well, they're blessed to do. They have longer training periods.
It's a more difficult, dangerous job when you're carrying the Aron. You overstep your boundaries. You do something wrong, it's Chiyav Misa. But if it's just a matter of guarding, overseeing, singing, then the age is advanced to the age of 20. Okay? It's very important to know. So, Vayamidu Salvim, Linatseach. Now, what does Linatseach mean? Says Rashi. Look at Rashi, Linatseach. Well, let's first see. Vayamidu, Hamidu Halavim Hamasharim. They appointed the Levim who are singing. Linatseach, V'loimer Shira, Lefnei Haboinim. Why would the Levim be singing? Normally, Levim sing when the Avodah is done. Here, they don't have a Beis HaMikdash. The answer is, you know what the Levim are doing? V'loimer Shira, Lefnei Haboinim. They're singing for the builders. While the people are building, they have musical accompaniment. Okay? So while they're building the Beis HaMikdash, they're being accompanied by music. Now take a look at the word Lenatseach. Says Rashi, Lenatseach, Shnei Nitzuchos Halolu. The word Lenatseach in this pasuk, the word Lenatseach in the next pasuk, Heim Nitzuche Shira. They refer to playing music. Kamai? What is normal? What would you translate the word nitzuach? To win, to conquer. But we find in Tehillim, lam natseach. You ever wonder what does lam natseach mean? Lam natseach, by the conductor. Benagina is mizmar leDavid. So the word lenatseach could mean to play music. For example, in Nusach Sfard, right? Shekein chayvas kol hayitzurim v'nech Hashem Elokeinu v'gavoseinu le'oida yishalel l'shabeach. Now in Ashkenaz you say l'fayr l'raimim l'hader l'vareh, right? And then in Sfard you say l'fayr l'raimim l'natseach, right? You add in the word l'natseach. What are we saying to Hashem? That we want to be menatseach? No, l'natseach there refers to singing. So the word nitzuach could refer to singing. Now what's the root of the word? The Metzudos explains that why would the word lenatzeach mean to sing? Lenatzeach means to conquer. So the Metzudos David explains it's nitzuach hashir. Because when people sing, one guy is trying to sing louder than the next guy. One guy is trying to harmonize above the next guy. The other guy's they're both sort of vying with each other. Their voices are vying with each other. He says, "Shedach balei hashul natzech zeh zeh b'haramas hakoil uv'hachras haniima." Okay.
But this is in conjunction with Malachas. What does Shira have to do with the work? That's what Rashi explains. Lenatseach, they sang Amalechas Beis Hashem while everybody else was building and constructing. Accompanying them, like music.
That's what we read in Rashi, that they were the musical accompaniment as the people built the Beis HaMikdash.
Took that long.
Was that a requirement in the construction that the Levim would sing?
Is it a halachic requirement? Well, I believe we mentioned earlier that as they returned, they were also accompanied by musical accompaniment.
That's Pashtaya coming back, right? But here you've got firework. You have to pay attention to the detail. Wouldn't this be somewhat disturbing?
Good. Music, gets you into the spirit. It gets your juices pumping. It gets you focused. You could use it to your advantage. You have to know what they were playing. If they were playing a slow song, so maybe they fell asleep. But they had to play the right music. Okay. Vayamod Yeshua, Banov. Yeshua got up, his sons, V'yachav, and his brothers. In other words, they got up to sing. Kadmiel also got up.
Wow.
And Uvanov b'nei Yehuda and his sons, the sons of Yehuda, Ke'echad, as one. What did they get up to do? Lenatseach al oisei hamalacha. So Rashi learns again, this word Lenatzeach means to sing above, in accompaniment of those who did the malacha, B'veisol Ekim, in the house of Hashem, B'nei Chenadad, the sons of Chenadad, B'neihem, their sons, V'acheim, and their brothers Halavim, the Levites. So now Rashi learns that again in this pasuk Tes, the word Lenatzeach also means to sing. So the question is, well, who is singing? Who is singing? The previous pasuk already said that the Leviim sang in the chorus. But in this pasuk, it only mentions a few singers: Yeshua, Kadmiel, Henadad, and their sons. So what does Rashi learn? What? Oh, so Rashi must learn that the earlier pasuk is talking about the general arrangement, that everybody was involved in the general arrangement. But who implemented this arrangement? Yeshua, Kadmiel, Henadad, and so forth. Now, the Gemara in Erchin on your Gimel and Beis says that normally Leviim, who are Ketanim, who are minors, are disqualified from performing the Avodah, but they're allowed to join in the singing. And says the Gemara in Erchin, we actually learn out from this pasuk. Gemara in Erchin, your Gimel and Beis says that we learn out from this pasuk that even though Leviim Ketanim are disqualified from the Avodah, but for the Shira they are qualified. How do I see it from this pasuk? Because it says Yeshua got up, Banav, Uvanav b'nei Yehuda, b'nei Chenadad, b'neihem v'acheim halavim.
Didn't they have young people?
How do you see from here? How do you see from here? Because the fact that the pasuk says Yeshua Banav, Kadmiel Uvanav, b'nei Chenadad, and then it repeats again b'neihem. The extra word b'neihem indicates that these are not just children, but these are children who are ketanim. Okay? Now this is very interesting. Obviously that Gemara is learning that lenatseach in this pasuk also refers to music. But not all the Mefarshim learn that lenatseach in this pasuk refers to music. The Metzudas Tzion, for instance, while he agrees to Rashi in pasuk Ches, that lenatseach means to sing, in pasuk Tes he learns lenatseach means to oversee. In this pasuk, okay. So in pasuk Ches, and that would answer the stira. In pasuk Ches, right? We asked who's singing, all the Leviim or only the names mentioned. The answer is in pasuk Ches we're saying everyone sang. Pasuk Tes we're talking about who are the supervisors. That's the next, right? That's pasuk Tes. The Malbim also learns. Take a look in pasuk Tes in the Malbim.
But how do they explain the references to Banav, Uvanav?
They were also supervisors.
Children.
So they don't define Banav as children. Then the supervisors would have to be older.
No, they were children also, and
supervisors of construction.
The sons of, the children of, and not in the sense of minors, but in the sense of the sons of. The Malbim also learns in this pasuk lenatzeach means lahashkiach aloisei hamlacha. He says ki al nitzuach hashir, because when it comes to singing, says the Malbim, hayu mishtatim kol halavim, all the Leviim joined in, like we just said in the previous pasuk. Okay, now we're up to amazing pasuk. Ready for this? Try to contain your excitement. Okay, pasuk Yud. V'yistu haboinim es heichal Hashem. The builders laid the foundation of the sanctuary. Vayamidu, and they positioned hakohanim milu bashim. The kohanim were milu bashim. Wow. The kohanim were milu bashim.
They put on their...
They had the garments,
yes.
the big decorated.
They were milu bashim. They were donned. We'll see what that means. And they had bachatzoitzros with trumpets. V'halavim b'nei Asaf, and the Levites, the sons of Asaf, b'amitzal tayim, with cymbals. Lehalel es Hashem, to sing halal to Hashem. Al yedei David melech Yisrael, through David, the king of Israel. Now, obviously, David HaMelech wasn't around. David HaMelech was before the first Beis HaMikdash even. It just means with the help of David. What kind of help did David give them?
Plans and the architectural plans.
He gave them the words of the songs, right? Tehillim, right? Now take a look at Rashi. V'yistu haboinim, the second Rashi in Pasuk Yud. V'haboinim, the builders, miyastim es yisoid heichal Hashem. They poured the foundation of the temple of God. B'shasha hayu menatzchem b'shirasam. At the time that they were being victorious with their song, v'ha'amidu ha'kohanim melubashim, and they left the kohanim clothed, bigdei kavod, with garments of honor. That's very interesting. You see, Rashi says that the kohanim were wearing what?
Bigdei kavod.
Garments of honor.
Not the bigdei kahuna.
So Rashi, by saying bigdei kavod, apparently he's not learning that they actually were the bigdei kahuna. They wore nice clothing. They wore the nice suit. They wore the chasana suit. But if you look at other mefarshim, if you look in the Ibn Ezra says, V'yastu milubashim bigdei kahuna. So Rashi learns they're wearing nice clothing. Rashi obviously would translate the word milubashim formally attired. The Ibn Ezra learns no. Milubashim means bigdei kahuna mamish. What's the machlokes based on? There's a famous machlokes between the Rambam and the Ravid. The Rambam says kohanim are only allowed to wear their bigdei kahuna at the time of the avodah. Once the avodah is over, once they're not doing the avodah anymore, they cannot no longer wear the bigdei kahuna. So that opinion of the Rambam seems to be what Rashi is learning, and that is why Rashi learns these kohanim were not wearing the bigdei kahuna; they were wearing just nice clothing. The Ravid, on the other hand, learns that kohanim are allowed to wear the bigdei kahuna as long as they're in the Beis HaMikdash. Doesn't matter what they're doing in the Beis HaMikdash. They could be resting, they could be chatting. According to the Ravid, kohanim are allowed to wear the bigdei kahuna always. So this corresponds with the Ibn Ezra's pshat, that the kohanim who, when they blew the chatzotzes, they were on the grounds of the Beis HaMikdash, they were permitted to wear the bigdei kahuna.
Even if the Beis HaMikdash wasn't kiyum.
Yeah.
Because they were on the makom.
Alright, so you'd have to say, right, good point. An additional chidush, that as long as they're in the makom, that's good enough. Or, the Malbim says, that it could be the Ibn Ezra works even in the opinion of the Rambam. Because the Rambam's of the opinion that even though kohanim may only wear their bigdei kahuna when they're doing the avodah, once they finish their avodah, they could continue wearing it. So it could be these kohanim, they were wearing the bigdei kahuna after they already brought the carbon tamid shel shachar. Like we read earlier, that at this point in time they were bringing the carbon tamid. So you have a Malbim in your Nevi'im. Just take a look. Malbim in mine, it's on the first wide line. Milubashim bigdei kavod. That's what Rashi learns. It says a Malbim, Rashi is going the Zela das Harambam, Parakhes and Hilchos Klei HaMikdash. The Rambam's of the opinion that kohanim are only allowed to wear the bigdei kahuna at the time of the avodah. Aval l'shitas haravid, but the Ravid holds Sham yesh sefarish that they were actually milubashim bigdei kahuna. Or even according to the Rambam, he says yeshlam shalav shu bigdei kahuna l'tzarach avodas hatamid ulahapich b'tzinura. And according to Rambam, mutam leich by kol hayom, like my opinion is in the Artzos HaChaim. Now the Malbim is bothered by another very important question. Blowing chatzotzros. You're allowed to blow your trumpets in the Beis HaMikdash whenever you want? No. The chatzotzros are designated for Yamim Tovim. So what right did these kohanim have to blow the chatzotzos? Imagine if on Tuesday a guy comes into shul, I'm going to blow my shofar. You can't just blow shofar whenever you want. There has to be a reason.
How do we know this wasn't a Yom Tov?
What Yom Tov was it?
Let's see, this says
it would have said it's the second year. I mean, you want to... Right?
Well, it's either Rosh Hashanah.
There are no Yom Tovim in here.
5th day of the year.
Exactly, right? Yeah, so there we go. So
We won't go there.
see, it's not my fault.
Well, whose fault? I didn't say.
Okay.
No, I didn't say. No, that wasn't directed at you.
I know. So what does the Malbim say? The Malbim says like this. The Malbim says that normally Kohanim would blow the shofar or the chatzotzos only in the Yom Tif. But this was a Hayrah Shah. They treated it like a Yom Tif because of their great simcha. Okay.
Rabbi, what about the Lashon Vayamidu HaKohanim Mubashim? When you put on clothes, Vayamidu, is that a Lashon when you're clothing people?
No. They stationed the Kohanim, and the Kohanim were Milubashim.
Stationed the Kohanim who were clothed.
Right. Okay. Now, Vayanu, and they responded. In other words, they sang responsively, B'Halel, Halel, Uvahoidois Hashem, and thanks to Hashem. What did they sing? Kitayv. They sang to Hashem, who's good. Ki li'olam chasdai al Yisrael. His kindness is eternal to Klal Yisrael. V'chol ha'am. That's what the Kohanim sang. But the people who responded, they didn't respond lahaydais. They only responded in halal. V'chol ha'am heiriu trua gedola. And the people burst into a great shout. V'halal Hashem. Of Halal al Husad Beis Hashem, that the foundation of the Beis Hamikdash was being founded. Now, in the beginning of the pasuk, look carefully. The Leviim sang at the beginning of the pasuk, Halal and Hoidais and Hoidah. But the people, on the other hand, their shout only expressed Halal, but not Lahoidais. Why didn't the people respond in Lahoidais? Right, very interesting. We know Hanukkah, for instance, right? Lahaydaisu lahala. But why didn't the people respond in lahaydais? So take a look at the Malbim. The Malbim says, "Vayanu b'halav haydais ahiluhu al shvach habayre." The Halal was praising Hashem v'haydahi al hatoiva. But the people responded b'hala, but not b'hoidah. Why didn't the people respond b'hoidah? The answer is because when they saw what this Beis Hamikdash looked like, they saw it was lacking what the first Beis Hamikdash had. They saw it paled in comparison to the honor of the first Beis Hamikdash, and they felt that it was missing. So they praised God, but to give thanks for this benefit, they couldn't do it. They could not bring themselves to the Haidah. In fact, the Psukim are about to say what it evoked in them was feelings of mourning and sorrow, that they cried.
But right now, they only saw the foundation. So
but look,
they know that the completed building would be lacking. The foundation, was it smaller? The foundation itself?
Was it smaller?
It's all about the foundation.
Let's see why exactly they cried. Rashi is going to learn that the second Beis Hamikdash was smaller than the first. Even though we do find that there were many things that were bigger. But let's take a look. Pasuk Yud Beis. V'rabim me'hakohanim. Many of the kohanim, v'halavim, v'rashi ha'avos, hazakenim, asher roes habayis harishon b'yastai. When they saw the first house, when b'yastai doesn't mean when it was founded. B'yastai means when it was standing, right? When it stood
on its
foundation. Zeh habayis b'einayim, when they saw this house with their eyes, boichem b'kol gadol, they cried in a bitter, loud voice. When they saw what was happening. Look at Rashi, b'yastai, b'yisoid shalai, on its foundation, min shem davar shal yusad. Look at the next Rashi, zeh habayis, k'shel roim binyan bayis hayu boichem mitoch shahayu zoicher moisai. They remembered binyan gadol shal bayis rishon, which was bigger than the bayis sheni. But those who did not see the first Beis Hamikdash, the Rabbim, but many Besrua, they cried out Besimcha, in joy, Laharim Kal, and they raised their voice. So you had mixed emotions.
Who made the determination about the size and the specifications of Bayis Sheni, that it should be smaller?
It was Baruch HaKodesh.
So if it was Baruch HaKodesh,
I believe,
what right do these people have to cry if this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted?
But there's an idea that the plans of the second Beis Hamikdash, which I believe came to the Navi Chagai, were delayed. Because before Hashem told the Navi Chagai about the Bayis Sheni, Hashem told Yecheskel about the Bayis Shlishi. Why would Hashem do that? The answer is because the Bayis Sheni had the potential to be the Bayis Shlishi. And unfortunately, all they were Zaycha to, because they did not return in the proper way, most people did not return. And we're going to see that who was louder than who? The people crying or the people enjoying themselves? The people who appreciated it. The people crying far outnumber the people who enjoy themselves. Why? Because the majority of the Jewish people were Alta Yidden. The young people had no interest in coming back. The vast majority of the Jews who returned by Bayis Sheni, we know in terms of the Levium, not one new Levi returned. And in general, that was just symbolic and symptomatic of the general return. The old Jews returned, the new Jews, they didn't come back. So, and because of that, we were not Zocheh that the second Beis Hamikdash should be on the level that the third Beis Hamikdash will be on. So look what it says. The Rabbim, Rashi says, Ashalai ro binyan bayis rishon. They were smeichim, mariyim besimcha b'kol gadol merav simcha sheyatzu migalusan.
Rabbi, if we look at the Milim, the Rabbim Kohanim V'Alvim V'Roshei Avosas Kanim Asher was a Bayis Rishon. So the only ones who were crying were the Kohanim, the Levium, the Rosh Yavos, the Kanim, not the Hoi Polloi. Only the upper level people and the Kohanim and Levium, those are the ones that cried. And we had a lot of other Alti Yidden who were not Rosh Yavos, the Kanim. Maybe they were the ones that were joyous. It says Varab, and then it also says Varabim.
Let's see, we're not finished with this yet.
No, it doesn't delineate who the Rabbim were here, whereas it delineates who the Rabbim were in Pasuk Yud Beis.
Well, maybe the Rabbim of Mehak Kohanim and the Rabbim, they're the same Rabbim. In other words, who's returning anyway? You have Kohanim, Leviim, and people from Yehuda and Binyamin. So many of them were crying, many of them were happy. Ve'ein ha'am makirim, kol tzuras hasimcha. The people could not hear, they cannot even make out the voices of joy, l'kol b'chi ha'am, to the voices of crying of the people. In other words, when you would hear the sound, you couldn't hear. Why? Ki ha'am marim shua gedola. Because the people cried out a great cry, and their voice was heard very far away. Now, what exactly is the meaning of this pasuk? What couldn't they hear? In other words, the simple meaning of the pasuk is they couldn't recognize the simcha because of the crying. And in fact, that's how Rashi learns. Why? The sound of the crying was greater than the sound of the joy. And I believe the Gemara in Hariya says, we see from here, that the vast majority of people who returned were the old generation. Yeah, and that's how the Gemara, that's how Shas learns. That the sound of those who were crying were greater than those who were rejoicing. However, the Malbim has another way to read this pasuk. You have to look carefully at the words over here. That ve'ein ha'am makirim kol tzuras hasimcha l'kol b'chi ha'am ki ha'am mariyim shua gedayla. So the simple meaning that we said is that because so many people were crying, you cannot hear the sound of rejoicing. However, the Malbim learns that if a person was there, because there was so much noise, you couldn't tell whether somebody was crying out of joy or crying out of sorrow. It was so loud. It was so loud that you could not detect, you cannot determine what sound was being made. Okay. Or another way to understand it is because of the sound of the trumpets drowned out the sound of the rejoicing and the sound of the
I think
crying.
that's what the words tell you, because trua is associated with simcha. Look at pasuk Yebez at the end, but trua b'simcha, right? Merchativcha, they go together. Ahamakirim kol trua is simcha nachamo. The trua is the simcha, but the bechi it doesn't say, right? It says bochen b'kol. The bechia is with a kol. But the simcha is with trua. Ki aham meriim trua gedola. That's probably the simcha.
Mm-hmm.
It's consistent that trua is associated with simcha, and kol is associated with bechia.
But on the other hand, the end of the parak, it says v'hakoil nishma. So what is that referring to?
The kol is bechia.
Right. Okay, let's just begin the next parak, just the first pasuk. So now the Jews are rebuilding the Beis Hamikdash. They pour the foundation. They built the Mizbeach. They're getting things going. Vayishmu utzara Yehuda ben Yamin. The adversaries, the enemies of Yehuda ben Yamin heard. Ki b'nei hagoyla, that the returnees, boinim heichal Hashem l'kei Yisrael, were building the heichal of Hashem, God of Israel. So very interesting. Who are these Tzara Yehuda? These are Goyim that Sancheiriv, the king of Ashur, had relocated from Bavel and from Kuta and situated them in Eretz Yisrael. They originated in Kuta, and Sancheiriv situated them in a region called Shomron, Samaria. These people were known as Kutim or Samaritans. Now, even though in the Welt der Rhein there's an expression "Good Samaritan," but you have to know why would somebody call a Good Samaritan? Because most of them were rotten, they were terrible, they were disgusting. The Samaritans were bad people. The majority, they were all bad. So one guy helps an old lady across the street, he's a good Samaritan. But in general, the Samaritans were bad. And in fact, in Malachim Beis, it talks about when these people were planted from Kuta to Shomron, they were not keeping the law of God. Obviously, the Shav Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. They were attacked by lions. Okay? And because they were attacked by lions, they converted, but they continued to serve Avodah Zarah. It's Machlokes in the Gemara and Sanhedrin on Pehei, whether their conversion is legitimate or not. Some say, you know what? Once they had the fear of God put into them a little bit, they converted B'leiv Shalem. And others say no, since they continued to serve Avodah Zarah, they're called Gerei Arayos. Good, that's right. Very good. So Machlokes whether Gerei Arayos or Gerei Emasem. Gemara Ksubas talks about it also. And they want to interfere with the building of the Beis Hamikdash. But they're very smart. Because if you want to interfere with somebody, the worst thing you could do is protest.
Well, you got to join them and then
sabotage. You got to, right? You join them to beat them. So they say, "Oh, you're building Beis Hamikdash. Come, we're going to help you. We're going to join you. We're all living in the same land. Let's build the Heichal to the God of the land." And this way, they thought they would be able to.
They were Megayer before they did this.
Yes.
Because otherwise, you wouldn't let them build.
They're Megayer, but again, they were always questionable. Okay?
The time of the first bias.
Right, it was time of bias, and now we're past that, so this is after that period of time.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.